I am back. My name is Lauren Hollows with NOI Education Services, and I am here for part 2 of my interview with Marc Ratcliffe from MRWED. Marc needs no introduction, and if you guys haven't checked out the first part of the video, then you should definitely do that. It will be linked here, 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 or here. Otherwise, Marc, I'm really interested to find out. So obviously the new standards have now come out. And we're going to get this part out of the way, guys. You do not have to upgrade to the new TAE as part of it. It is still optional. Whatever you've got now, if it's compliant to the current standards, it's going to be compliant to the next set of standards. Don't stress. But there are a couple of changes. I think some of them are very exciting. And I think some of them speak very much to you, Marc. So obviously you have been the training guy, the engagement guy in industry, like for as long as I can remember. So
Well, we're doing
standard
this for
1.1,
30,
standard,
32 years.
standard 1.1 says now we've got to have training resources that are motivating and engaging.
Yeah.
So, and we've also got a whole bunch of stuff in relationship to learner well-being. So I'm really interested to find out, like, what were your initial thoughts when you read the standards? And as a person running an RTO who is probably under the biggest scrutiny in Australia, being a TAE provider, what are some of the thoughts and processes as to how you guys are potentially going to be adapting or adding to meet those standards in 1.1.25?
Yeah, listen, I think the engaging stuff it makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of the feedback had been that you've got off-the-shelf products that are fairly static and people aren't doing enough to them to bring them alive. And to be fair to our courseware providers, like they don't promise that it's going to light people up. It's only a starting point, and then the RTOs get that material and do their magic. That's what they're supposed to do. So the challenge I think there's going to be there is that there's not a lot of, I think, specific guidance about what that needs to look like, and I expect that the regulator will, or the relevant regulators around the country will have some fact sheets there about what compliant practice will look like. So watch this space. I'm sure that Lauren will have another video about that when that is released. But on the surface there, my first reaction is that it's a matter of justifying those things. So I would see that simply as another line or another column in your mapping documents. Now, I know it does mapping differently. I map our resources as well as our assessments. So for me, I would just add another line there to say, well, how am I making this content? So content engaging, and it could be a few key things that are justifiable there, and then I then have the connection back to our TAS documents that sort of say, well, this is a standard. This is how we do it broadly. Check this out specifically, each piece of content, how that's being, made accessible and engaging and appropriately motivating for our learners.
Yeah. And because I think the big part of that for me is that engaging and motivating is going to be very different based on the cohort. So
Correct.
To me, it naturally sits in the TAS, like as you've mentioned, because, it has to be relevant and engaging for that particular cohort. If I'm dealing with, 50, 60-year-olds in a workplace, what's going to be engaging, motivating, and suitable for them is going to be very different than if I'm dealing with, 20 to 30-year-olds, who are doing, let's say like a Cert 3 in horticulture, right?
Yep.
What's motivating for them is really, going to boil down more to like how we're making things make sense for them, some of the more classroom-based, activities that we can provide for them, things like that. So it's always going to be, and if I'm dealing with like, let's say Gen Alphas and things like that coming up, it's going to be, being able to like really gamify the crap out of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's all going to be, cohort driven in my mind.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it definitely makes a lot of sense.
and then what about the well-being aspect? I mean, because you guys do have learners, I mean, obviously doing learners and full qualifications and things like that. And I think that's going to be really where a lot of this is going to come down to. What were your thoughts when you first started reading about kind of learner well-being requirements and things like that?
Listen, I was really happy to see that there because I think if we learned anything out of COVID, that mental health piece was a significant thing, and I don't think people have completely recovered in terms of that space too. By the way, I think we have students that are, I guess, more quick to be anxious than I certainly experienced prior, and that's almost, and it wouldn't be clinical PTSD, but it's in that territory where people go, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this. This is freaking me out. It's stressful. Life is stressful, and then you add all the
Very
other
low
stresses
levels
that
of
we have.
resilience, I
Yeah, yeah.
find.
All
Yeah,
the other stresses we have in life are being piled on at the moment, and we know historically we're in a crisis point. You know, in the country and all around the world, people are experiencing cost of living type pressures. You add that on top of everything else, people aren't their best selves all of the time. So from this perspective, I was really happy to see that in there. Now, of course, from an RTO perspective, we need to make sure that we've got appropriate strategies and referral opportunities. I mean, I think from the follow up question you're likely to have, saying, well, how does this manifest itself within your own
yeah,
systems? It's something that's likely to have a closer look at our student handbooks in terms of, well, what support do you have in certain areas, and then just making sure that we are locking down those supports ourselves. Because we can't be experts in everything, and small RTOs don't have people on staff who have specifically trained to handle all of those different wellness considerations. But we
yeah,
we should be able to be a phone call away from being able to hook somebody up with the right kind of help, I think.
yeah,
But just understand what that looks like and what our capacity is. And again, like we said before with the other stuff, I would expect the regulator to provide some guidance about just how much that is, because it is about reasonable. What is reasonable? So if it's creating an unnecessary impost on your business, like you can't profitably run a training program because you've got to bring in extra staff to do this other work, then that's not reasonable. But I don't think it's unreasonable for us to have people that either we can upskill in our own team who understand the signals or symptoms, and then we can provide advice and guidance and referrals as appropriate. I do think, though, that a lot of RTOs will need to do like the in-service training just to get their staff understanding what this means. I'm not saying what the compliance means; it's what it
yeah.
means around what is wellness, and in the context of an RTO, how far does our duty of care extend, and then what do we need to do to make sure that we are giving our students the support they need.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that what you said there, that's going to be the key word, is it's going to be what is reasonable, I've got a couple of RTOs that are Cricos RTOs, and they've kind of looked at it and gone, well, we've already got a counselor on call kind of thing, we've already,
Yeah,
because a lot of that already lines to the Cricos standards. But then I've also got short course RTOs that, really deliver first aid, working at heights,
yeah,
confined spaces. And they're kind of going, we see our students for like a day,
yeah.
2 days, 3 days max when they do the forklift course. Like, what am I supposed to do if they come to me and go, on day 3, I've had a breakdown and I'm struggling. I'm going, well, that's exactly,
That's exactly right.
that's exactly the question. What are you going to do? Is there going to be a process for it? You're going to give them reassessment opportunities? Are you going to give them, how is that going to actually work? And I think the biggest space that we're going to see changes in this is in that, as you mentioned before, that online space, where there's kind of been we'll sign you up for an online course. You work through your online materials. And if you submit something, great. And if you don't, as long as you're making your payment plan, then that's really all we care about. And I think that that's probably going to be the space where, there's mentionings of learner progression,
Yeah, yeah.
managing learner progression a lot more. So I think that, that it's kind of trying to tighten up some of those sorts of
That's going
things.
to be a nightmare though, Lauren. I think that one for small and large RTOs, because what is an appropriate progression? I mean, it's similar with the stuff under supervision that's just changed, where someone could be enrolled in the certificate for and training and assessment, and as long as they are making progression over 2 years, they can train and assess under supervision. So the concern I've got around that kind of stuff is that then employers are going to be putting more pressure on us to say, well, we need you to progress our students appropriately, and then we're going at the same time, you need to give them a chance to do some of this work yourself.
Well, yeah, and you also need to support their learner well-being through that
That's right.
process too. So I think that that's where it is going to be very interesting. And I mean, you know, certainly like when I've had RTOs talking to me about it, I've kind of gone, well, look, this is going to boil down to what it's always boiled down to when there's a kind of an area that's a little bit gray within the standards. And the first part is making a definition for yourself.
Yep.
And then the second part is backing that definition up with some industry consultation.
Yep.
So, you know, like if we're going to be looking at the Cert 4 TAE, which has got, is that 12 units now? Am I right?
12 units. Yep.
12, yeah. So, you know, and it's got 12 units and, you know, we're saying that the nominal duration is 12 to 18 months. Then what that means is that, you know, at least a unit every 3 months is kind of what we're expecting you as a learner to work through. And if you can't work through that, then you need to be talking to us about it, you know, and if you haven't done one in 4 months, then we're going to reach out to you and we're going to have a discussion and we're going to put a learner support plan together for you. And, you know, we've backed that up by having discussions with, you know, these people and these consultants and these industry people. And, you know, we've decided that that's an appropriate approach to it.
Yeah, it does
You know,
add more touch points to the process, and I think that's where the hidden costs of this management will come. And
yes.
then you've got the situations where, and I posed this actually during the week is let's say somebody goes hard at it and they go I get 6 of my 12 units in your example, 6 of the 12 units, and I smash them out in the first 3 months, and then I take a break, which is fair enough. Life gets in the way. And we don't do anything for another 3 or 4 months, right? Now they're still ahead of the game, but they're not really making any more progression. So, is there intervention there? Probably, because you should identify that there's been no logins or no situations there. But as I said, there's going to be a contact there where you need to then say, okay, well, let us know what's happening. We'll add that to your file so we don't, bother
Yeah,
you.
we'll put you on a 3 month, we'll put you on a 3 month suspension. We'll contact you again at three. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like all of those sorts of things. I think this is where having good systems is going to be really important. Like having automated, having some
yeah,
automation
correct.
and stuff like that. Like obviously we work with a lot of clients with Accelerate. And so, one of the things we've been doing with a lot of people lately is like going and looking at kind of like, okay, well, so do you have a report that comes to you that tells you or that tells your trainers, when it was, if you've got a student that hasn't completed a unit in the last X amount of months. I'm just going to do a little proviso here. Apologies, everyone. I have a 9-week-old puppy in my house. So for the next couple of videos and for this video, if you hear a wooing in the background or like a Chewbacca, that would be my 9-week-old Mally. And we also have, I think, 4 fledgling starlings because I finished my wildlife carer course and it wasn't busy enough. So I also have 4 baby birds in the house as well. So if you hear lots of noise, that would be why.
It's not the zoo that you're living in these days, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got 2 dogs. So we've got the puppy and we've got our other dog. And our other dog traveled in the caravan with us and was like so he's chill as. And now he's like, why have you brought this little thing into my house? And then obviously, yeah, I did a carer course, and so we've got baby birds as well who require feeding every 2 hours and tell me, if I go more than 5 minutes. And we've got kids. So, a little bit of a zoo, but it's all good. But yeah, like as I said, like I think, for me, like we've got reports that come to most of like we set up reports so that like, automated things go to trainers. These are the assessments you've got outstanding. Automated things go to admin. Hey, these are the students that haven't, either commenced or completed a unit in the last 2 months. So that goes like clockwork to them every Monday morning, and they can then kind of go on and go, okay, well, like what's going on? What's this? So I think that, having systems that can kind of do some of that work for you, like automated emails to to
Yep.
students to go, hey, you haven't logged in 2 weeks, you know, like we're just checking that everything's okay, you know, like do you need any support? Just a reminder, here's our support mechanisms that you can access and things like that. It's not the be all end all, but I do think like just operationally as RTOs go, having some of those things in place can certainly make it a lot easier rather than like having to manually check information and things like that.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. All right, cool beans. So I guess then the only other part that I was really interested to find out was then obviously when we came under the workforce planning, we are going away. We are now in March. So it's March 18th when we're recording this video. We still are yet to have a credential policy. She's very
Still part of the
frustrating.
fun. Still part of the fun.
Um, but the thing that I found really interesting is that there is a thing about like effective workforce planning, and there is a lot more in and around like leadership and accountability. So specifically, it says leadership is effective in building and promoting a positive organizational culture, and I found that really interesting because obviously, like I think that there are aspects of our vet industry at times that can feel a little bit toxic. But obviously, you guys have been running a really good ship for like a long time. Every time I talk with, you know, your staff, with Jason, everyone's really positive. So what are some of the practical things that you think need to happen in terms of leadership, building and promoting positive organizational culture? So how do you guys, because I know that you guys make that work in your organization. So how do you make that work in your organization?
Listen, I love your waxing lyrical there. I don't think there's any organisation that's completely free of drama and things that happen. I mean, particularly in an industry such as ours, where you have a lot of folks that will be fairly independent in their jobs, and so then when they have to work with other people, they're not used to it, and that could become an issue. So like I'm not going to say we're the gold standard on this one because it's not without challenges as time goes on. I guess that the thing I wanted to suggest at this stage is that it's about trying to have that transparency as much as possible, reconnecting with your staff on a regular basis, letting them know well in advance when things are going to be happening. Again, we don't always hit that target in each and every situation. And what I found actually, Lauren, is that things that I would think, oh, this is a really minute part of the picture, I don't necessarily need to share that right now. I'll share that later once I've got the full information. That sometimes feels like it's being withheld. And then later I said, we didn't know about that. So, well, didn't think you needed to know about that, but you're right. I could have been better in those spaces. So it's a work in progress, but definitely that transparency is key. We connect with our team every week. We record those meetings so that someone who's not in attendance can check them out. We bring our team together as much as possible. We are a fully remote team now in terms of a regular work situation, and we've been that way since 2017 too. That wasn't a COVID thing. That was an agile business type decision. And the downside of that, of course, is that information flow is different when you're not seeing each other in an office environment. So it's super important that we have that time together as a team, honor the contributions that teams are making, and have that social impact
Yeah.
as well. So in terms of that organizational flow, if you like, it's not just all business all the time. I think that's the mistake a lot of organizations make. And you do need to create that culture of people wanting to connect with each other and be in each other's lives. And I don't necessarily mean in each other's pockets, but we
No.
never miss a birthday. We never miss an anniversary. We always celebrate the birth of babies and grandbabies. This is important culturally as part of our
Yeah.
DNA, and that's something we've built for a very, very long time. And the other important thing I think that works for us is that we want to bask in the collected glory of anyone that's doing something great. So it might not be us that started, personally, but if someone in the team has had either a personal or a professional milestone, then we celebrate that. So that there's real power in celebrating, and it's got to be genuine. Okay, it's got to be
Yeah.
for reasonable stuff. Not like, oh wow, you got up this morning, you turned up to work, fantastic, go you. Yeah, some days that might be a milestone, to be honest. But for the most part, it's just saying, you know what, we want to acknowledge, we want to honor these great contributions, or simply celebrate in something that's happened in your life that you're very proud of, and we're proud of it as well, because we're all about the team. So I think those types of things, and then we extend it a bit further. We do our awards. We have our PD week and awards night every year, and this is the chance for us to let the hair down, whatever hair's left of that, I guess, and put your heels on, let the hair down, and just celebrate in those in the business who've made a great contribution, which is everybody. And then our clients or our customers vote for our best trainer and our best admin type roles, and then as a CEO, got CEO medals. So for folks that might be doing a great job that aren't front facing, so they're not going to get those votes, I've got a chance to honour those contributions, and they're always really well received. And I don't say, okay, this person didn't get it last year, now they're going to get it this year. They are genuine stuff. Know that I picked them for actual things that they've done, not simply to go through the motions. So that they are well valued. And if somebody deserves it 2 years in a row, they get it 2 years in a row. That's how that plays.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really important. And I like the fact that you celebrate admin as well. I think that's a sign of a really healthy organization. Like there's understanding the role of how admin not only support, but like they're gatekeepers for your organization. They're the ones who are likely, especially when you've got people kind of working all over the place, they are the ones who are likely to go, hey, like so-and-so, really, really good, but like lately they're just kind of like missing like this, and this, like consistently, like that's, a good admin will pick up on that sort of stuff and can be an absolute lifesaver in that aspect, I find. So that's wicked. All right, awesome. We are going to come back with part 3, guys. So if you want to keep watching this series, make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you are following. We're going to put all of this into our interview playlist for 2024. If you want to follow Marc, and you should be following Marc, you can check out all of the details below, and I will include all of where you can follow him. Make sure you sign up for the Mr. WED. It's like a monthly. Is it a monthly? It's a monthly mail out that you guys do, right?
It's supposed to be. But yeah,
it does come out. It does come out most
when
of the
it
time.
comes out.
Look, especially if you guys are young trainers, that's a really good way to just kind of get that some regular hints, tips, and tricks and things like that in there. So make sure you're following along. If you disagree with anything you said, by all means, duke it out, but do so respectfully. Guys, we're going to be back in 5 minutes. Thank you so much to Marc. My name is Lauren Hollis from NOI Education Services.